From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at 7, streaming now.
Thanks for watching WRTV News at 7 on this snowy Monday with more winter weather ahead.
That's right. Let's get right to Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Kevin Gregory tonight. Hey, Kevin.
We're getting used to this light snow and cold temperatures. It's that combination that will appear a few times within this 7-day forecast. Looking down in Bloomington, where you've had the steadier, at times a little heavier, light snow, limiting visibility under half a mile in the spots. Just to show you what's going on north of Indianapolis, not much. We've had a few flurries around Peru, Logansport, Monticello. This is where the action is and will continue to be south of Interstate 70. The advisory in effect, I'll outline that in a second. See these darker blues? You get these bursts of snow. Bloomfield, Linton, Worthington. That'll move toward Bloomington, Nashville, and Columbus, as well as Franklin to Edinburgh. So these waves of light snow with a little moderate kick to them at times will continue to move through the south. The visibilities right now all pretty good, but at times do drop under a mile. Everything shaded in the purple, not sure exactly what color it is on your TV screen, is in the advisory through the overnight. An inch or less, it looks like, for the Indy area. As you go to the south, that's when you may see 2 to 3 inches of snow. That should be a fluffy snowfall. We'll talk about even colder temperatures coming up in the 7-day planner.
And Kevin, INDOT trucks are out right now, keeping the roads safe if you have to head anywhere tonight. They're plowing and salting to stay ahead of the winter weather tonight.
When events are colder like this, we have to use a ton more salt to get it to be to the effectiveness level that we like it, so we can plow the snow right off the road and keep all the roads clear. So the second that trucks hit the pavement tonight at 4 p.m., they'll be dropping salt, and will continue all night long.
INDOT reminds you to give their trucks plenty of room and slow down on the roads.
Health officials are working to get more people vaccinated as they work to learn more about COVID-19 variants spreading around the world. The State Department of Health has confirmed 9 cases of the UK variant in Indiana. Today, the department reported about 1,000 new cases and 58 additional COVID deaths. Hospitalization rates continue to drop, with about 1,300 people in the hospital with confirmed or suspected COVID cases as of yesterday. There's also new information about how COVID impacts children. According to a report from the American Academy of Pediatrics, nearly 3 million kids have tested positive in the U.S. since the pandemic began. ABC's Aaron Katursky looks at one case amid the spread of variants and the quest to vaccinate.
At first, it was just a headache for 9-year-old Mackenzie Gongora of San Antonio.
Mackenzie was complaining about a really bad headache, and then they took her temperature, and she had a fever.
Victoria Southworth's niece was a 4th grader when she tested positive for coronavirus.
Doctors told them kind of the standard thing that they tell parents with kids with COVID, especially with no respiratory issues, to keep an eye on her, keep her comfortable.
Mackenzie's condition deteriorated rapidly. She died days later.
She was gone. So we want to get answers as to why she was taken so quickly from us.
Texas is also mourning Ron Wright, the first member of Congress to die of COVID-19. Their deaths underscore the urgency of vaccines.
That is what keeps me awake at night. I mean, basically, this is a race between vaccines and variants, and that's why we're so desperate to get more supply of vaccines into more arms.
It's why authorities worry raucous and largely maskless Super Bowl celebrations could cause new outbreaks.
The majority of individuals that I saw out and about enjoying the festivities associated with the Super Bowl were complying.
The drive to vaccinate Americans is gaining speed. Johnson & Johnson's single-dose vaccine may be just weeks from authorization. And 10% of the U.S. population has now received its first vaccine dose, including millions of people in nursing homes.
Those who were dying in large numbers over the last year are now on a path to protection.
Vaccines are particularly important to getting kids back into their classrooms, and there are tentative deals now between school districts and unions to reopen schools in Chicago and in San Francisco. Aaron Katursky, ABC News, New York.
As of today, new guidelines are in place for COVID-19 cases identified in schools. This comes as teachers push to be included in Indiana's vaccination distribution plan, and school leaders ask for changes to testing rules. According to the state's most recent recommendations, social distancing space has been reduced from 6 to 3 feet. If students, teachers, and staff remain 3 feet apart and are wearing face masks in class, They no longer need to quarantine for 14 days when someone else in the classroom tests positive for COVID. The new guidelines are not a mandate, and they do not apply to activities outside the classroom, including lunch and athletics.
There are new variances of the virus, and our concern is that these changes have been made that in some ways relax what has been happening in our schools at a time when the virus isn't relaxing.
Again, the new guidelines are not a mandate, and they do not apply to activities outside the classroom. Those activities including lunch and athletics. But many teachers and school administrators are hoping the State Department of Education decides to take into account this unprecedented school year when it comes to ILEARN requirements. WRTV's Cornelius Hawker shows us why a teacher is glad that school leaders are pushing for changes to help students during this challenging time.
Third grade teacher Michelle Justice Hobbs doesn't think the state's ILEARN testing should go ahead as planned.
A standardized test in the most non-standardized year that we've ever had, really is a stressful thought for those kids.
That's why she was happy to see the letter sent out by her superintendent and 7 others in the area asking the Indiana Department of Education to reconsider the ILEARN requirements because of circumstances caused by a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic.
So appreciative that our superintendent and the other superintendents in the area did that, because I can't even imagine doing testing under the circumstances.
The superintendents want the Department of Education to know the ILEARN requirements could take away even more valuable instruction time. They're also worried about staffing shortages and getting it all done in the testing window.
Every year, testing is a stress. I won't lie about that. But under the circumstances, I wholeheartedly agreed when I saw that letter.
Michelle is also considering the challenges as a mother. Her 7th grader, Emma, has had to make a lot of adjustments, some of which wouldn't be possible without great teachers.
The teachers are doing an amazing job. Like I said, she's in a hybrid model, so she's every other day virtual and she's every other day in the classroom, and they have done tremendous under the circumstances.
This new situation is working, Michelle says, but ILEARN requirements would throw a wrench into this delicate balance that's been created. That's why she's hopeful the Indiana Department of Education will make some changes to ILEARN testing.
To take one of those stressors away from them would be amazing, not just for the kids, but for their families too.
Working for you, Cornelius Hawker, WRTV.
Well, so far, no word from the Indiana Department of Education on any changes to the testing requirements.
One of the leading causes of death in the United States is also preventable. That's one of the big messages cardiologists are sharing for American Heart Month. I spoke with cardiologist Scott Byers, a doctor with IU Health, about the signs and symptoms of heart disease: chest discomfort, tightness, heaviness, pressure in the middle of the chest, or shortness of breath. And Dr. Byers says knowing your numbers can help you keep track of your heart health.
Blood pressure would be pretty high on the list. You can have high blood pressure and have absolutely no symptoms from it, so you have to check your blood pressure periodically to know that it's high. Cholesterol is a similar story. You probably won't have any symptoms entirely from high cholesterol, so it needs to be checked periodically to know if it's high. Blood sugar, and then body weight or body weight relative to size, what we call body mass index. That's how we determine if somebody is overweight or obese. Those are the numbers that really all of us should know.
The cardiologist says Hoosiers can make lifestyle changes starting today. Whether you are healthy or not, exercise at least 30 minutes a day, consume less alcohol, stop smoking, and eat a healthy diet.
When COVID-19 first arrived in the U.S., the way it spread and killed was a mystery. Still ahead in our Faces of COVID series, the story of a beloved man gone too soon, whose death was an early wake-up call of the pandemic's arrival. Well, the last several months have been tough for thousands of Hoosier families who are mourning the loss of a loved one to COVID-19. The people who have died from this deadly virus are more than just a statistic in daily health reports. They're people who made a difference. WRTV's Alyssa Donovan shares the story of a man who, even in death, is still impacting lives.
Charles Henderson was a family man, working hard to give his wife and 2 daughters a happy life.
My dad was the provider of the family and worked so my mom could stay home with me and my younger sister.
Even building the family's house with his own 2 hands.
He was our protector.
Henderson ran his own business, and even with all the work, his daughter Amy Sloan remembers he was very involved in her and her sister's lives.
He was our baseball coach. He would take the whole team out for Dairy Queen after every win.
After heart surgery in 2006, Henderson stopped working. The past few years, spending his days looking after his grandchildren.
And he kind of then played the stay-at-home grandpa role. And
everything changed at the end of March. Henderson was having trouble breathing. His wife took him to the hospital. The first few days, the family FaceTimed with him, and he seemed okay. But then he was placed on a ventilator. His health spiraled from there.
And then every couple days, just another organ had failed. Another organ had failed.
Just after midnight on April 10th, a nurse called
and said, it's time, we need to unplug the machines. And I did not want him to die alone without at least being on the telephone.
Sloan stayed on the phone as the nurse turned off the machines that were keeping her father alive. Charles Henderson was 64 years old. Sloan feels some responsibility for what happened to her father.
So much guilt.
But she and the family have found several ways to honor her dad.
We still go camping every other weekend in his honor, in his memory.
And by wearing these when they go out, masks that read Charlie Charlie.
His little nickname was Charlie Charlie because he always said just silly things and everybody would just say, Charlie Charlie.
At first, Sloan just made the masks for her family, but friends kept asking for them to wear in honor of Henderson. So she's passed out close to 80 masks with the slogan.
People are wearing them now when they get their vaccine in honor of Charlie Charlie, and it just makes me smile to see the huge impact that he had on everyone's life.
I'm Melissa Donovan, WRTV.
If you've lost someone close to you to COVID-19, connect with us. We want to share their story so that those taken from us are never forgotten. You can reach us at facesofcovid@WRTV.com.
I know some of you are saying, what snow? From Indianapolis north, nothing happening, but from Franklin and Martinsville south, that's where the light snow is moving steadily to the east. What to expect overnight and beyond, coming up. As we've mentioned, the headline in the weather world is a winter weather advisory south of Indianapolis till 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. 1 to 3 inches possible. The inch amounts closer to Indianapolis, the 2 to 3 inch amounts south of Indy. Here's one of the latest model runs. You can see along Interstate 70, an inch generally, less than that as you go to the north, and then it jumps once you get from Bloomington through Nashville and Columbus south. That's your best chance of a 2 to 3 inch snowfall. Dry, fluffy snow. Speaking of Bloomington, it's looking pretty white down there as the light snow continues to give it another cover. And I think we'll have more accumulating snow on Wednesday, potentially some over the weekend, Saturday night into Sunday. We stay in a very active pattern. It's a sharp cutoff from Terre Haute to the south side of Indy to south of Richmond. This will continue to be the case over the next several hours. Temperatures in central Indiana in the teens from Lafayette up to Fort Wayne. At least we've made it into the 20s in Indy. Want to show you nationally. Look at the big dip here, right in the central portion of the country where temperatures go into the single digits for current readings, 8 above in Kansas City, 3 below in Minneapolis. Now, this is beyond the 7-day forecast. I just wanted to point out how most of the country will have below average temperatures and kind of the bullseye in the Midwest and the Great Lakes, which includes Indiana, continuing our temperatures through about the 22nd or 23rd, well below average. Let's take the timeline and move it forward. 9 to 11 o'clock tonight, still snowing south of Indy. As we go to the early overnight, it drifts back north just a little bit. That's why we could see an inch or so in the metro area. Less north, but the longer continuation of the snow to the south and southeast gives you that 2 to 2.5 inch probability. Temperatures tomorrow with lots of cloud cover at about 26 degrees for the afternoon high. That's 21 up in Peru, down to 32 in Bloomington. Wednesday, the wind will be stronger out of the northeast as the next storm system kind of brings with it another round of accumulating snow. Too early to talk about how much yet, but through the day on Wednesday, we do expect that. 7-day forecast, there's your Wednesday snow. We're dry Thursday. Look what happens Friday through Valentine's Day. colder temperatures. 14 on Valentine's Day, 2 below next Monday morning with highs only at 15 degrees. Amanda?
It's going to be a chilly Valentine's Day, and when temperatures drop in the winter, you'll hear Kevin and the storm team reminding all of us to bundle up before spending any time outside. Tonight, WRTV's Nikki Dementri shows us the reality of what happens if you don't layer up.
Bite is very nasty, and some of that can cause some severe permanent damage long term.
It's also a reality during what experts say is an unusually long stretch of frigid temperatures.
Those are our most vulnerable groups, our kids and our seniors.
Bargersville Deputy Fire Chief Michael Pruitt asked those that must venture out in these dangerous temperatures to layer up. That means hat, gloves, wool socks, boots, scarves, and a thick jacket.
Why is it important to make sure things are dry?
So if we go back out into that cold weather, the extreme cold, and it's wet, it's going to freeze. And then your skin tissue is going to freeze. And then we're going to run the risk of not only frostbite, but hypothermia.
It seems everyone always tells us during these really cold temperatures to bundle up. Why is it so important? We're going to figure it out to see where heat stays in and also is lost.
Right now, you've trapped all your heat inside. You're not giving off a lot. We know you're losing some heat around your eyes and in your legs. So, and I know that because we used the thermal imaging camera.
And when I took off a glove,
all the heat that you had retained in your hands is now going to be gone. And now you're going to start running the risk of frost nip, frostbite.
Same went for when I removed one of 2 jackets I was wearing.
I'm seeing more white to where you're not getting the type of thermal protection you were getting with the heavier coat on.
Now for Pruitt, the cold temperatures and fighting fires aren't a new combination. He's been doing this for 35 years, but it is potentially an extremely dangerous one.
Our gear will freeze.
And to show you just how quickly that can happen, I geared up.
Oh, great. Okay. Fantastic.
And went back outside again to simulate what it's like for the men and women fighting fires in the cold.
And immediately when we're in these low temperatures, our gear starts freezing and it gets really hard to move around. And so the quicker we can get our folks done with their work and into a warmer environment, get them in fresh gear, the safer they're going to be.
Just 5 minutes outside in the shade during 20-degree weather, and my gear froze up. The ground underneath my boots did too.
It's starting to stiffen up. I can see the ice.
Yes.
Pruitt says it's almost instantaneous when the thermometer hovers around 0. That's why they are constantly changing equipment that can fail during these temperatures and calling backup if needed.
In the extreme heat of the summer, we're calling for extra help. In the extreme cold, we're calling for extra help.
Takeaways for Hoosiers heading into this long stretch of frigid temperatures: prepare and check on your neighbors. Limit your time outdoors, but if you do venture outside, bundle up and seek immediate medical attention if you suspect frostbite or hypothermia.
Just give us a call. That's why we are here. You pay tax money for us to come out and look and assess medical emergencies. So we want you to do that. We'd rather you do that than have a medical emergency when it's too late.
Working for you, Nikki Dementri, WRTV.
Remember, you can track the temperatures and get a live look at radar on the Storm Shield app. All you need to do is download it for free in your smartphone's marketplace. We'll be right back.
Millions of Americans haven't let the pandemic keep them from starting a new business. The Economic Innovation Group says more than 4.5 million business applications were filed last year. That's the highest number ever and an increase of 23% from 2019. The report shows many of those applications from people who likely lost their jobs during the pandemic and turned to freelance work. 200,000 new business applications were filed as likely employers, meaning they plan to provide jobs for others as well.
Moderate snowfall now down in Bloomington. You see that little fuzzy view to the campus at IU. Visibility's down in spots under half a mile as you go to the south. There's a darker blue over Monroe County. That stretches up to Shelbyville with half-mile visibility as well. Again, 2 to 3 inches of snow to the south, around an inch in Indy, and less to the north. Amanda?
Well, thank you for making WRTV your choice for news. We'll see you again tonight at 11.